Jazmin Webster, thank you for taking the time to talk with us on Lessons from Learning Leaders today.
Thanks, Dwayne.
So tell me, we always start out the same way. I'm looking at your LinkedIn, and LinkedIn doesn't tell the full story. So for everyone listening, watching, tell me your story.
Absolutely. Well, my name's Jazmin. I'm from the St. Louis, Missouri area. I live in the state of Illinois. Most often folks just associate Illinois with Chicago so much. I've gotten so comfortable with saying I'm from St. Louis, but truthfully, I'm on the Illinois side of the Mississippi River. So that's the area I'm from. I grew up here and been in the Midwest the majority of my life. Recently relocated back home. I was working in the state of Virginia for a couple of years. Also lived in North Carolina, Philadelphia. I've traveled around the world, and part of what I've learned through this travel is that, you really pick up something from every environment that you're in, every place that you're in. So I've really enjoyed all my experiences. I'm definitely a foodie, and I'm also an avid cyclist. So those are the two things that you'll find me doing outside of L&D.
Okay, hearing that, I have to
Yes.
know, what are your thoughts on St. Louis style pizza?
Well, because I grew up with it, that's something that is near and dear to my heart. I love a good thin crust Emo's pizza. So if
All
you're
right.
from St. Louis, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh,
But
yeah.
it's something about the cheese. It's the Provel cheese that's unique to this area. And it is not, truthfully, yeah, it's not for everybody. But because I'm an Illinoisan, I love me some good Chicago deep dish pizza too.
Yeah.
So I've got a balance there.
See, now then you get into people saying that's not pizza, that's like a cheese pie.
Yeah,
All right, one
indeed.
more thing about the food in St. Louis,
Mhm.
toasted raviolis, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
We can
Yes.
continue the interview now.
Yes.
All right, so you were head of the St. Louis ATD chapter for a while too. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so ATD is the Association for Talent Development, and that organization really has been a strong foundation for me for how I've grown my network and also grown in my career professionally over the past 10 years. Actually, yeah, 10 years, past 10 years, I've been a member of ATD, and I started off on the national level. ATD is a huge international organization. However, I was attracted to their professional membership because they have a wealth of resources in terms of certifications and other courses and classes that you could take to elevate your skill as an L&D leader. I found out around 2016 that they also had local chapters. And at the time I was thinking about how can I connect with my local community? How can I give back to an organization that has already provided so much professionally for me? And it took a couple years for me to kind of make the space in my schedule to get engaged. But in 2020, that's when I became a part of chapter leadership, and the journey just accelerated from that point forward. And I will tell anybody this, that if you can find a community that you can be connected with and also volunteer and support to strengthen, that's only going to help you grow in your career and in your profession. So I really highly encourage volunteer leadership.
Yeah, there's a proverb that I've shared with people that I've worked with before. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Love
Indeed.
that. So you followed a path that I think a lot of trainers want to follow, and
Hmm.
you're leading. You're out there doing it, and that is you work in corporate training, the learning and development space. You're working for another organization, and then it looks like just in the past 9 months or so, if LinkedIn's up to date here, just in less than a year ago, you said, you know what, I'm gonna do this on my own. I'm gonna take that leap that I think so many trainers think about.
Hmm.
You did it. Tell me about that.
Oh, yes, that it was definitely a leap, I will say. I have been in, I would say, corporate roles for the past 20 plus years of my career. And over those 20 years, serving as part of chapter leadership, doing volunteer work, serving the community, attending conferences, and also delivering breakout sessions and keynotes at those conferences, my confidence started to grow in terms of I might have something else to offer. And sharing with larger audiences, such as on at the ATD scale or other organizations like Training Magazine and the International Society for Performance Improvement, all of these different communities really provide that opportunity to network and to share. And, that helped me to see that there's a potential space for me to contribute in a different way. And it wasn't an easy decision. This is a decision that I've come to over years. And I would say the seed was planted start first, I would say with the relationships that I built within ATD and seeing that there are other L&D consultants out there who are able to help support organizations. And of course, I've worked with consultants on the other side, being the customer. I'm the customer who's receiving the consulting services for an organization. And I've seen the value that they can bring. So, in the past 12 to 24 months really is when I started this journey. I started to map out what it would look like to work for myself, to be an entrepreneur. I started to explore different books that talked about the entrepreneurship journey. And I really started to listen to some podcasts and other things that really helped to shape my vision of what entrepreneurship life could look like for me as an individual. I'm also a single parent. So being a single parent, you're like, okay, you are the sole support for your family. And knowing that I have kids that are relying on me, a family that's relying on me to also support their livelihood and their hobbies and their passions. This is something that I wanted to run after to show them that you can do this type of work independently and still enjoy your life. So I started, I would say in 2024, attending a workshop on what it means to be an L&D consultant. And Elaine Beach, she
Yeah.
is one of the thought leaders there in that space. And she led this workshop and she gave us a framework of how to approach our consulting journey.
So let me ask you something real quick. You said that
Hmm.
was in 2024?
Hmm.
Was that at an ATD event?
It was.
Was that in Utah?
No, that was
Okay.
in New Orleans. This one was New Orleans.
All right, because there was one I sat through that same one with Elaine,
Hmm.
and I was like, "Did
Hmm.
you and I share the same space at one time?" But so close,
So
so
close.
close.
So close. So yes. Yes, indeed. So yeah, so she inspired me to really think about the reality of the journey. There's the glamour. Oh, I'm working for myself. I have the freedom to make decisions. I have the freedom to set my own schedule. I've got the time to do all these things. But then she really put in the forefront what the reality of working for yourself means, the things that you have to be responsible for, that you are your own, accountant. You are your own legal consult. You are your own marketing person. You are your own spokesperson. You're your own content creator. All these different hats that you have to wear uh, when you're first starting out until you're able to outsource some of those things. You may not want to be your own legal counsel forever, but you have to start somewhere.
Right. There's such the word courage gets thrown around a lot, but the idea. See, I'm a parent as well.
Hmm.
The idea that said, I'm going to go do this. At one time, I left it all and did my own thing. It was
Hmm.
a fantastic failure. So many lessons learned from that, right?
Yes.
So many lessons learned. But, at that time, I had 2 kids, maybe 3. I don't know. It all
Hmm.
blurs together. I'm 9 now, just so you know. The idea that I'm going to go do this on my own, that is such a courageous leap.
Hmm.
The question I have is, how did you know you were ready? Or is it a fact that I wasn't ready? I just knew it was time.
That's a great question. And, I'm leaning towards the latter. And the reason I say that is because, you know, I- this is a journey that's ongoing. You know, I I'm constantly evolving in my mindset as an entrepreneur and taking responsibility for those things that I must be doing every day in order to move myself forward in this space. And I would also say that uh, when I thought about seeking another role, I knew it was time because I did not have the appetite to go and search for, fill out, recraft, do all those things and apply that energy to uh, seeking another role in a corporate environment as what I did. I didn't have the same level of passion when it comes to, oh, I'm going to create my website, or I'm going to define my product offerings. I'm going to look at, how I'm presenting myself. What workshops can I facilitate? What things am I a subject matter expert on that I can share with others? Those things were lighting me up and fueling my fire. Where, oh, if I need to sit down and write this cover letter, oh God, it just like started to drain me, and I was like, I couldn't bring myself to do that and put all the energy in that direction when this was calling me and I knew that I had something to offer.
Yeah. I can relate. I can relate. I completely understand where you're at. So then you went ahead, you started the quality experience,
Yes.
out of Illinois. I'll allow you to claim St. Louis from Illinois. I
Thank
understand.
you.
Just like I live in Northwest Missouri. So where are you
Mhm.
from? I'm like, have you heard of St. Joe? No, Kansas City. Okay, just
Yeah.
picking little towns. I'm near there, so
There.
I get it. Tell me about, because I see that, just looking at your activity, you're all over the place. But when you go to thequalityexperience.com and you see the upcoming events,
Mhm.
you're teaching a workshop at the LA ATD Chapter Leaders Conference that you
Mhm.
taught at the main conference, and I wanted to talk about that. So it's called the Box Experience: Building Better Boxes for Chapter Leaders. And I'm
Yeah.
curious, most of the time you want to get out of the box, and I'm thinking
Ooh.
about about other word, books like
Ooh.
um, Leadership and Self-Deception. They talk about getting in the box, and that's a bad
Mhm.
place to be. But you're talking about building better boxes.
Mhm.
Tell me what that means.
Well, I have to do a little demonstration for that. So
Sounds good.
let me turn around just for one quick second. Hi, my name is Jasmine, and I have a box on my head. My name is Jasmine, and I still have a box on my head. And this box represents my invisible thinking box. It's how the world sees me, and it's also how I receive and see the world. And this box, what it does is it helps me to recognize what filters, what behaviors, what emotions I have when I'm showing up and how I'm interacting and communicating with others. The box program helps you to really unpack and really make visible that perception and that thinking. And it also helps you to make visible to others the types of filters that you're using when you're approaching different conversations, when you're approaching decision making, when you're approaching working in teams. And the box itself is a physical tool. We call it a participant guide that we use. And each panel of the box helps us to uncover something about our outward thinking, along with inside the box, our inward thinking. And both of those are really powerful and impactful in how we decide. We make a decision on how we're going to create a better box. We have the decision, we have the decision making power to redesign and recraft our boxes. And the glory of the whole program is that, as you mentioned, if you want to go fast, you might go, but if you want to go far, you will need to go together,
Together, right.
together. So taking our boxes and connecting them with others allows us to go farther together.
So give me some examples of what you mean by inward and outward thinking.
Yeah. So outward thinking, I would say, is how we react and respond to certain stimulus in certain situations. So our outward behaviors are really, oh, you might feel under pressure, or you might start to fidget, or you might start to sweat. If you're feeling nervous, or if you're feeling excited, and those behaviors project how we show up in the workplace, what kind of decisions we're making, and how we respond. Inward thinking, that's what takes us back to those reflective states, those pauses, and how we take some time intentionally to to pause before we make a response.
I like the fact that you said respond. There's a difference between reacting and responding, isn't there?
Hmm.
So one of the things, it sounds like there could be some stoicism in here. I act a lot with the Scouts. I've been involved with Boy Scouts since
Mhm.
my oldest son was in there, and I'm thinking back to a conversation that I just had at Scout camp 2 weeks ago in Missouri. You can imagine
Mhm.
heat index 108. We had heat advisories all week. Not a bit of time indoors, all outdoors. And there's a new kid. He just got his Eagles. He's 18, so now he's an adult leader for the first time. And man, he is all
Aw.
kinds of stressed out. You know,
Yeah.
he's this is going on. They're not doing this and they're not doing that and they're not doing that. And I said, look, you have to develop, and this is going to sound bad, but you have to develop a
Oh.
profound sense of apathy towards some
Mhm.
things
Mhm. Mhm.
because you can't control what these guys are doing. You
Mhm.
can't control what they're doing. You can only control how you respond to that.
Mhm.
And no, they're not doing what they're supposed to do. Can you control that? No, you can tell them you should do this. And then you have to sit back and watch what lesson they're going to learn at the end of this campaign, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
so is that the type of that's it seems like our inward thinking
Mhm.
is sort of the foundation or the genesis of our outward. Is that kind of the idea here?
Absolutely, absolutely, and we need both of them. People might say you need to think outside the box, and yeah, they think about that in terms of how you expand on your creativity. But you also need to think in your box, and you need to be reflective, and you also need to contemplate, like you said, those actions, those behaviors that you might be perceiving, but you can't influence that. So, I really appreciate that. You encouraged him to take that moment to sit and just reflect and allow the situation to unfold. And, he can then turn and encourage those individuals to say, well, what lesson did you learn from that? And get them to pull that out. And that's pulling out that inward thinking.
Yeah, the looks that I've gotten from parents in this world where,
Mhm,
you know, I've said, I don't know how many times through the years I've said to my kids, we live in a small town, so we have these gravel alleyways. I don't know if,
mhm, mhm.
and I'm like walking over to my dad's house and my kids running beside me. I'm like, you probably shouldn't run in the alley. You don't walk that well to start with.
Yeah.
You probably shouldn't run. And
Yes.
they
Yeah.
take off running and they fall
Sure.
and they
Mhm.
get up and they've got a skinned knee. And I'll look at them
Yeah.
and say, okay, let me help you up. What'd you learn?
Mhm.
Don't run in the alleys. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Also, you might wanna learn that dad knows what he's talking about
Got a
sometimes.
little bit of experience.
But there comes that time, and it seems like, this tell me if I'm wrong, it seems like there's a mindset that is not in vogue so much anymore, and that's the
Mhm.
willingness to let people fail. To
Mhm.
say, "Hey," because I see people being rescued all the time, I'm like, "You just robbed them of a
Mhm.
valuable learning experience."
Oh, absolutely.
What are your thoughts about that? Am I wrong there?
You are 100% right. You really are. I really gravitate towards that as well. There's a phrase that we use from the box experience, and our founder, the founder of the box, the creator of the box, Jimbo Clark, he shared this quote with us. He said, "Change is a door that must be opened from the inside." We can't I can't open the door for you. I can show you the better way. I can do all of that. But you yourself have to make that decision internally. And the only way, only path forward is for you to open that for yourself from the inside.
Alright, so walk me through the process. I mean, people come in, they got their own box at their tables. What are we doing here?
Yeah, this is a fully immersive experience, and we start off with exploring what's the outside because that's the easiest for people to talk about. We ask you to uh, draw something on the box or write something on the box that clearly represents you, and that way, if somebody were to pick up this box, they would know this is me. And I'll use my own box as an example that I have glasses on. I've worn glasses since I was in the second grade. So, for me, it's a part of my identity. It's a part of how I see myself. People have said, "Oh, why don't you get contacts?" I've never worn contacts a day in my life. So I see myself with these glasses. And if I don't have my glasses on, then I don't feel like myself. So that was why I drew something on the box to clearly represent part of myself.
See,
And we
there's
started
where
that.
that internal thinking comes too, because when
Mhm.
when you said, "Hey, why don't you wear glasses?" The Gen X part of me said, "Hey, why don't you mind your business?" And see, that's that time you gotta, okay, we'll push that. That can stay in the box because that's who I am, but that's not going out of the box.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Yes. So, yeah, so first we start off with exploring how we show up in the world and how we believe others perceive us or how we would like to be perceived. And then we shift gears and we go inside the box and we talk about goals, we talk about what's important to you, we talk about and help you to explore what energizes you versus what drains you. And this is where I feel the power of the box really comes into play because you have to then make a decision. What are you going to trade off? What are you going to keep? Are you going to keep doing those things that drain you? Or are you going to do more things that energize you and bring you closer to your goals and to your heart center, which is the term we like to use?
So, just hearing what you're talking about, these are personal things. These are
Mm-hmm.
deeply personal things.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about how you create the safety in the room for someone to do that. Because going into a room full of strangers and sitting down at a table full of strangers, one isn't initially inclined to say, "Hey, Jasmine, let me tell you all of my insecurities." So, how do you create the safety in the room for that to be successful?
Absolutely, Dwayne. And I'm glad you brought this up because, when we think about the box and the way that I've started this conversation, I've started it off on a very personal note and on a very personal way. Uh, I would also say the box, the way we start off on the topic is of the day is how we start off establishing that psychological safety. So to give the example that I used when we were in the Vox workshop at the chapter leader conference for ATD, we talked about how are you individually going to help to elevate your chapter spirit. That was the theme of the day. So we're not talking about per se deeply personal, um, say, qualities or characteristics of you as an individual. We're talking about you in the frame of you being a chapter leader and what you're going to do to help elevate your chapter's spirit and the chapter members' spirit. So, when we start off on that type of frame, it helps establish, I guess, it helps establish a frame of what direction the conversation is going to go. We also encourage those that might have sensitive or very personal things that they're reflecting on. They can write that on a post-it note for themselves and set it to the side. They don't have to actually put it on their box. If it's anything on your box that you don't want others to see, it's fine. You can put that on a side note for yourself because what we're showing, what you feel courageous enough to share and show, is what you're comfortable with others seeing and sharing.
I think it's also important to point out that you're leading the way on this. I mean, you're
Hmm.
coming right out of the gate and saying, "This is me. Here's my box. Let me tell you about myself." And I think it's important not only as training leaders, but as leaders in general to lead the way and show
Hmm.
it's safe here. We can talk about these things,
Hmm.
and I'm going to show you it's safe because I'm going to do it first.
Modeling the behavior, yes. Indeed.
So this isn't just something that applies to ATD chapter leaders. This is something that is a leadership issue all the way through, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. And we've used the box in workshops to help corporations with onboarding. We've helped with team building, with strategic planning workshops. The box experience can be expanded not just as a 2 to 4 hour experience, but it can go across the whole week. This depends on how we embed it into, say, a leadership development retreat that an organization has decided to do for their leaders. And it's been very successful, especially in helping, I would say, organizations go through their strategic planning because they can use their values as cornerstones to the box and how they're showing up and how they want themselves to reflect as far as models for the behaviors and for the values and how they want their organization to show up with those that same values.
So one thing I wanted to we've got about 5 minutes left. One thing I want to talk about is you're talking about going in and talking with CEOs,
Mhm.
C-suite types, business leaders,
Mhm.
and you're getting them to put a box on their head.
Yes.
And I have talked with people when I've talked about doing more activity-based training,
Mm,
more like this.
mhm.
Well, what if this person in the room and this person in the room, and they're very concerned that because we're not being very serious in the way we're conducting this training, that it isn't appropriate for those levels. I talked with
Mm,
Bob Pike about this. I don't know if you
mhm.
know
Yep.
Bob.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
I said, "Bob, this is the feedback I'm getting." And he said, "I've done this in rooms full of CEOs, the entire C-suite. I've done all of this." And he used to say that adults are just babies with big bodies. And
Mhm. Uh-huh.
what he
Yep.
meant was we all learn the same way. You know, when we didn't
Mhm.
learn to walk by reading in a book. We didn't learn to
No.
ride a bike by reading in a book. We got out and we did. So what
Mhm.
do you say to those folks who are concerned that they can't do these kinds of things with the high level C-suite types?
That's a great point. And, really it comes back to as you mentioned, we as humans learn through play. And we can relate problem solving. We can relate the scientific method. We can relate research and development, all those processes that organizations are doing anyway and applying to their complicated process thinking, we can apply the box to. And if you think about the spirit of play, you think about how neuroscience indicates that we learn through humor and joy and creativity. Those sparks, all of that are combined in the approach that the box experience takes. And when we're thinking about how we pull in those CEOs and those leaders. This is something that if they're really willing to push the comfort level of their organization, they would be willing to do this. If they're really willing to push the comfort level and grow beyond whatever is paining them in their current workforce, in their current development, whatever that problem is, if they really want to truly solve that problem, they're going to get a little uncomfortable and they're going to put the box on.
Yeah, I think it would be more uncomfortable to see their business fail than
Mhm.
to put a box on your
Look,
head.
look, there it is. There it is right there, yes.
All right, so you've got some things coming up. Actually, that ATD in LA, that was in May, wasn't it?
That was in May. Yeah, I
I'm
need to
sorry.
do some updating on my website, it's
No,
all
that's on
good.
me. I should see that, but I love the fact that that this is getting out there because it takes some time. In the book, I've got it over here, The Four Disciplines of Execution.
Mhm,
Great
mm,
book. They
mhm,
talk about the whirlwind, and
mm,
we get so caught up in the whirlwind that we don't have time in
mhm,
the day to day to say, okay, well, let me look at my what the box. So you've
mhm.
got to take some time in these workshops to go and do that. It's difficult to do during the whirlwind. So I appreciate you
Yeah,
taking the time to give people
it is.
the opportunity to do this. If people want to bring the quality experience to their organization, what do they need to do?
Just reach out to me. I have the website up. It's www.thequalityexperience.com. You can also reach me on LinkedIn, and there is information on the box workshop and the box experience on my website as well, if they're curious about that specifically.
You have a very nice website. I've
Thank
been
you.
building mine out. I think I'm just gonna copy yours now.
Please, I love it. Please use
It's
it for
much,
experience.
much nicer than mine. Well, thank you, Jasmine, for taking the time to
Welcome.
talk with us today, to walk us through what the box experience is and how important it is that we take a look at what our inner thinking is. And that
Mhm.
inner think those can be barriers too. That could be self-limiting things. Like I used to say that I suffer from imposter syndrome to the point that it almost defines who I am. I have a
Yeah.
room full of books that says that just screams imposter syndrome, right?
Oh, no.
Because there's something here I don't know. I need to read it. We have to look at those so that we
Mhm.
know how we're dealing with other people around us, and so we can
Absolutely.
bring our best versions to every part of our lives. So thank you for
Absolutely.
taking the time to do that. I appreciate it.
My pleasure, Dwayne. And what I've also learned is that some individuals gravitate towards that in the box thinking, and we still need those people because guess what? Those are the people that are good at planning and organizing and strategizing and sometimes even challenging the things that the out of the box thinkers are doing. Because if you're out of the box, you might come up with some grand idea, creative concept, but What's the value? What is it going to do for the organization? Is it going to take more resources than the value that we're going to get out of it? So we definitely need a balance. We need people who are both in the box thinkers as their strength and also out of the box thinkers.
Yeah, there's that another old saying that if everyone agrees, someone's not thinking.
Yeah.
So, thank you for taking the time to do this. I appreciate it.
My pleasure, Dwayne. You've been a great host, and thank you so much for the conversation today.